Hello, and welcome to Sir's Baked Goods. Today we're going to be making a care package for up north. I'm going to be making a cherry pie for my mom, some rye bread for my dad, and my brother is going to be taking this all up. So for the 3-day trip, I'm going to be making 2 dozen chocolate peanut butter cookies and a banana bread. So let's get into it. So this is the day before. We're going to make our starter. First we're going to put our rye flour in. Then we're going to mix it with a tiny bit of yeast and water. You can do this 4 hours before minimum, but this works even better a day before. The longer you get this flour developing that nice rye flavor, the better your rye bread's going to taste. Then we'll mix in our yeast, just a tiny bit. And finally, our water. And simply just mix it up. It's gonna look very dry when you first mix it up, but by the time you get this going, it's going to puff up a slight bit and become a lot more moist. I just realized I have it in this bowl and I'm going to be wanting to have it in the machine. So I'm going to just transfer it to the other bowl and then cover it. Sorry about that. Now that I have it in the new bowl, just going to cover it up. This time though, I'm going to use the better option, which is the towel. You can use saran wrap, but the best thing to cover your starter with will be your damp cloth. That will keep it nice and moist, keep it nice and warm. This is the best way to do it if you want to go quick, because it will get your yeast working faster and get that developing flavor. So if you do this, that 4 hours will taste a lot better than if you did with saran wrap. So we're all done for today. We'll let this sit all night and we'll come back tomorrow and finish it up. Before we start doing that rye bread, I'm going to add the sugar to our cherries so that the juices can come out. By the time I'm done the rye bread, all the juices will come out and I can quickly make this cherry pie. These cherries are very ripe, so I'm going to go with the least amount of sugar, 120. Make sure you stir them up, get all the sugar everywhere to make sure all that juices come out. So we'll just leave this off to the side, let the juices come out, and finish that rye bread. Now with the strawberries off to the side, we can get onto our rye bread. So we're going to add our flour, our yeast, and our 12 grain with our starter. Then our yeast. And finally our 12 grain. Now with all those mixed in, we're going to add our sugar water. In this case it's molasses. We're going to knead it until it's a semi-dough, then we'll add in our salt water. Make sure you get all that molasses. You want that yeast to start working. So we'll get this going on low speed till it starts to form a dough. Now that it's starting to form a dough, we'll add in our salt water. Make sure you stir it up so that it dissolves. Just get it all in there. And then you can turn it on low till it forms the dough and then leave it on medium speed for about 8 to 10 minutes. Once you get to this stage, turn it up to medium speed. After those 8-10 minutes, feel it, it'll start to bounce back at you. It's gonna be wet, so don't worry too much about that. But if you feel that it's nice and strong, it's good to go. We're gonna cover it with a damp towel and just let it sit to proof till double in size. Depending on your area, it will vary, but for me, it should take about half an hour to 45 minutes. A lot of the juices have left my cherries, so I'm going to just pour them in here. And then I'm going to just leave this off to the side while I finish my bread. Make sure you get all the liquid in here. If you don't get all the liquid in there, when you put that slurry in with the cornstarch, you're gonna get a solid instead of a sauce. So make sure that you get all the liquid possible in here. If for whatever reason your cherries aren't super juicy or anything like that, just add a little bit of water. Not too much or you'll dilute the taste. Maybe just 10 mils or 20 mils depending on. But normally this should be totally fine as long as you're using the correct strawberries. Or sorry, cherries. So I'm gonna leave these off to the side and finish up the bread. I've waited enough time for these. Just going to pour the cherries in here. Make sure you get any of this extra sauce in there. So make sure you have at least this much. I'm actually gonna add a tiny bit of water. So make sure you have at least this much liquid. It's probably around, I can actually just measure it for you. So it's gonna be about 200 mils of liquid. So if you have less than that, try and get to the 200 mils. I'm gonna heat this up, and while I heat it up, I'm going to make my slurry. Liquid's starting to boil. Have your slurry ready. Pour all of it in. Make sure you get all of it quickly, and then stir right away. If you don't stir right away, you can thicken only one area and it will become a solid where the rest will be a liquid and ruin the whole thing. So make sure you stir constantly. If you're using a big pot like this, it's going to thicken quickly. And if you're using a smaller one, it's going to thicken a bit slower. So keep that in mind. And there you go, it's already thickening up. Make sure you cook it out so you don't get that starchy taste. So give it a bit while you're cooking it. Just a bit more. And there you are. That'll be perfect. Let's take it off the heat. While it's off the heat, I have my butter. I'm just gonna break it up and just slowly stir that in. Make sure it's off the heat so that you don't get rid of that beautiful shine that this is going to give you. And there you go, you got a nice sauce for your cherries. Now make sure you pour it into your cherries. Whoa! Be careful. Get all of it. Once you have all of it in there, just stir it up. We'll set this off to the side, let it cool down. We're going to finish up the bread first. This will fully be cooled by then, and then I'll put it into the pie shell and get baking. So, back to the bread. It's now doubled in size. So you're just gonna punch it down. Scrape it out, make sure you get everything. A little bit of flour. Form it back into a dough. Start forming it into a longer dough. because you're going to make this into a loaf, not a bun. But first make sure that you have it nice and kneaded. There's a weird line here that I'm going to have to knead away. Flip this over. Just a bit of that flour. There we are. So it's looking nice. Now we just need to drag. Roll it out a bit. And there we are. Put this into your pan. Make sure the bottom is down. Then we're going to cut this and then cover again with the cloth. I'm going to try a different look today. I'm just going to do one big long cut and see how that turns out. Maybe I change, maybe I don't, but we'll see after we do it. Make sure you're quick and that you don't hesitate. Make sure your cut is nice. Just like that. So we're going to cover this, come back once it's doubled in size, and put it in the oven. So time this out nicely so that when the rye bread comes out, I'm going to start getting my pie fully ready. Once it's fully filled and has its lattice on and everything, I'm going to put it in the fridge, let it cool down in there. As soon as I take the rye bread out, it's the exact same temperature as I need for my cherry pie, so I'll quickly put the cherry pie in and save as much time as possible. So let's start rolling this out. Now that it's fully rolled out, let's put it on top. Lift it up. There you are. Lift up while you push in. And then we're going to cut it. Make sure you leave lots of space for your lattice. So make it extra big. We'll roll this out again to make the lattice. Put this off to the side. Try to do as little as possible to this. You don't want to overwork the dough. Do your best to layer the pieces on top of each other to make sure that you get a nice flaky crust. Now we're just gonna square it off. And then we need 6 pieces. It's okay to have smaller pieces, like lengthwise, because you can put them always on the sides, but you gotta make sure you have at least 2 long pieces. There we are. Now that we have everything ready, let's set up our whole pie, put it in the fridge, and finish up our bread. So let's start by filling our pie. So as you can see, the sauce is very thick. If that's the case, that means there wasn't enough liquid. So you're gonna have to go a little bit more than 200 mils. This will still work perfectly fine. However, if you want to have it nice and saucy, you're gonna have to go a little bit more liquid. However, when you have it like this, it makes it a lot easier to make a nice mound in the middle so it's taller. And it's actually a little bit easier. Just make sure you get all of it in there. And as this cools down, or sorry, cooks in the oven, it will liquefy again and then become just like what you want for your pie. Now let's get the lattice on. with your side pieces, make sure they're these pieces so that you're not trying to stretch it over top of there. There you go. Your lattice is done. Now all you have to do is crimp it over. We'll put this in the fridge afterwards. Our bread will be very close to being ready to be put in the oven. And we're almost done for today. I'm gonna have to finish the peanut butter cookies and banana bread the next day. But for now, I'm gonna get these two done quickly so I can get them frozen. These are for my parents, and the drive up north is 3 days that my brother's gonna take. So I can't afford to have these be fresh pies or bread to make it up there. I want to make sure it's as fresh as possible, which sadly means I'm gonna have to freeze it. We're gonna just put this in the fridge like this. Don't egg wash it until you're ready to put it in the oven. Once my bread's out, I'll egg wash and throw her in. Here we are. It's double in size. My knife is a bit dull, so you can see that the crack isn't done really well, but it's gonna work out perfectly fine. Should be fine. I'm gonna put this in the oven now, see how it turns out. Bread's come out. Sounds like knocking on wood. So that's good to go. The design doesn't look too good. I'm gonna stick with the 3 for next time. Now let's egg wash and put the pie in the oven. Just like I always say with these pies, be careful, practice on these easier ones that aren't so bad. Because when you do that blueberry one, if you touch any of this sauce and touch the lattice, you're gonna stain it and then burn it. So try your best to not do that. Remember with the bread, after 10 minutes, turn it down. You only need to have it on high heat for that first 10 minutes to really get that crust going. After that, you need to turn it down so it doesn't burn the top. And there we are. Now let's get this pie in the oven. So I just took the pie out. It's looking good. This will shrink down a bit as it cools down. We're gonna get these both to room temperature before I freeze them. Obviously I can't taste test them because they're going up north. These ones are for my parents, so cherry pie for mom, rye bread for dad. I'm gonna be making the peanut butter cookies and the banana bread for my brother on his trip. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.